Alright, reading on in Babylon and Timbuktu about Jews being dispersed all over the place, including the western interiors and central interiors of Africa. It says this, the Jews, this is page 86 in Babylon and Timbuktu. The Jews are an omnipresent people. They seem to exist everywhere. At the beginning of the 6th century, they are found in Spain before the Mohammedan conquest. Spain is known to the Jews as the classical land of crypto-Judaism because they feign Christianity but practice Jewish ritual in secret. As now I don't know if it's actually talking about the Judaism that we see today, because they also call, you know, our ancient rites and culturistic traditions and ceremonies, they call that Judaism sometime too, and they talking about the real thing. And as far as a Hebrew Israelite goes, if you're not a Christian or whatever, that just means you didn't believe on the Messiah back then. All right, because it said they feigned Christianity. See what I'm saying? It said but practice Jewish ritual in secret. Exactly, because the version of Christianity that they was probably giving them, all right, is one where the one that they give you today, modern Christianity, where they try to shun the Old Testament rituals and the Old Testament customs and whatnot. See, we don't do that. All right, Hebrew Israelites that believe in the Messiah, the Christ Yahushua. All right, we don't fan our hand at the Old Testament, okay? Because it's still all about Israel at the end of the day. It says this. As early as the Roman period, the Jews of Spain had been large in number and influential. Many of them claimed to be descendants of noble Jews in Jerusalem who had been carried into exile by General Titus. And that was a true statement, because that's what happened, man. All right? Because we're going to read that. We're gonna read that right now. Out of the same book, Babylon and Timbuktu. This is page 83 though. It says this. After the death of Alexander, his vast empire was divided among his generals. Ptolemy received Egypt and Seleucus received Asia. As time elapsed, there was constant war between these two dynasties. By the year 198 BC, the descendants of General Seleucus had their capital in Syria, just north of Palestine. In this same year, the Seleucid dynasty in Syria compelled Egypt to give up Palestine, the land of the Jews. The king of Syria at this time was Antiochus III. When Antiochus IV usurped the throne in Syria, which was from 175 to 163 BC, he entertained the thought of uniting Alexander's empire. This meant the conquest of Egypt. However, the province that bordered on Egypt was Palestine, which stood in his way. At this time, the Jews would not accept Greek culture. Nevertheless, Antiochus was determined to Hellenize the Jews. The army of Antiochus marched into Palestine to support Menelaus, the leader of the pro-Syrian army. And you can read about all of this in 1st and 2nd Maccabees in the Apocrypha. It says this. I'm trying to put together a lesson on that too, me in the camp or just me. It says this. The army of Antiochus, we read a little bit of it on Truth to Die Perfected, all right, on Alexander the Great in the Bible series. It says this. The army of Antiochus marched into Palestine to support Menelaus, the leader of a pro-Syrian party. As a result, many Jews were killed. Others escaped to the hills and to Egypt. Only those Jews that supported Antiochus' policies remained in Jerusalem. An edict was promulgated interdicting the observance of the holidays, the Sabbath, and circumcision. A statue of Jupiter was erected in the holy temple above the altar. To this statue, the people brought the sacrifices of pig meat, the animal which is an abomination to the Jews. and among other, and there are other animals that are abominations to us also. It says this, because of the religious persecution, the legitimate high priest, Onias III, and many other Jews fled into African countries such as Egypt, Ethiopia, and Cyrenaica, which is Libya. Alright, it says this. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves. Alright. We're going to jump over a page. It says this. They had 600 years to penetrate toward all the borders of Ethiopia. E. Shura wrote that Hebrewism was detectable by its inscriptions from the Egyptian border westward across North Africa to Mauritania. A.H. Godbey says Jerome, from 340 to 420 AD, he was one of the four doctors of the church, wrote that the Jews were spread now from the western extremity of Mauritania to India. Alright, now ancient Mesopotamia included part of the territory on the Atlantic Ocean, Morocco, and parts of modern Algeria. It is certain that the Jews had migrated all across North Africa by the 2nd century. Some scholars fixed the date even earlier than this. See what I'm saying? So you had, we was fleeing from Roman persecution. That's what we was doing in Africa in the first place, to get captured by these whites, man. Alright, let's go to one more thing on page 40 in this book. It says this. Thousands of Jews migrated to Egypt and Arabia when the Roman general Titus destroyed the city of Jerusalem in 70 AD. When the Jews revolted in 130 AD, Emperor Hadrian dispatched General Julius Severus to Palestine to suppress the revolt. The persecution and restrictions imposed on the Jews was so great that a large number of the Jews fled into Arabia. The tradition of the colored Yemenite Jews of Arabia relates that the first Jews came to Arabia with the prophet Jeremiah just before Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the first temple. Alright? So that's a little bit of the history of Jews, alright, fleeing in Africa. Now, let's continue to read. It says this. Selling is back in the article now. Selling captives or prisoners was common practice among Africans and Arabs during that era. The prisoners and captives that were sold were usually from neighboring or enemy ethnic groups. These captive slaves were not considered as part of the ethnic group or tribe matter of fact, so like I already read that. That's talking about how the Africans came up in there and was taking us, because we wasn't other people, man. That's right. It says these captive slaves were not considered a part of the ethnic group, but tribe of kings had no particular loyalty to them, because they wasn't under their rule and they wasn't their people. Now let's read on. Next section. The neutrality of this section is disputed. Please see the discussion page. Please do not remove this message until the dispute is resolved. Alright, now Wikipedia, somebody on Wikipedia is trying to dispute this. But let's see what it say. Let's see if it matches up with the truth here. It says this: the transatlantic slave trade resulted in a vast and as yet still unknown loss of life for African captives. All right, both in and outside of America. All right, we know that's true. Approximately 1.2 to 2.4 million Africans died during their transport to the New World. More died soon upon their arrival. The amount of life lost in the actual procurement of slaves remains a mystery, but may equal or exceed the amount actually enslaved. It says this: the savage nature of the trade led to the destruction of individuals and culture. All right. With that, we're gonna read the scripture. This is Baruch 2:29. It says this: if you will not hear my voice, surely this very great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations where I will scatter you. It says this: for I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captivities they shall remember themselves. See that? So it said the destruction of individuals